What's up, you guys, and welcome to another episode of The Variety Views. And I'm your host, of course, The Variety Vendor, talking about Split, which came out earlier this year. Yeah, I just got to see it. It was playing in one of the theaters nearby, and I was so glad that I got to see it because been waiting for it for so long, waiting for it to be on theaters, but just they just got it, and I was like, okay, if I'm not gonna see it in theaters, then I'm gonna wait for it when it comes out on DVD, and I'm just definitely gonna see it. Now, I've always been a fan of M. Night Shyamalan, and even when people kind of gave him some flack for movies like Signs and The Village, I still was, I was still on board with him because I still like the fact that, his movies, despite whatever you think about the narrative or the plot, he always comes up with a different perspective, and not just that, but every movie that he makes is different. It feels so different than any of his other movies, and even any of the movies that you've seen that year. So you can't really say that, oh my God, Signs is pretty much like this, that, and the other, or same thing with like The Sixth Sense, or any of the other movies. And even Lady in the Water, I enjoyed because it was, again, something different. It felt different, but at the same time, it was like he was asking too much for too little of a budget. He was being way too creative, and you can see that with like the horrible CGI and stuff like that. But still, like I still respected his vision and respected the way that he would make these movies. And most of his movies are just like, it's written and directed by him. Even Devil, I really love Devil, but the movie that really made me kind of go, okay, this is definitely a stinker, this is definitely a horrible, horrible, horrible movie, one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and that's The Last Airbender. Because I was a fan of the cartoon, and seeing that movie, I was like, no, this is garbage. From the way it's shot and the plot and everything, it's just not even so bad it's good. It's bad all around. Now, to Split, when I heard like James McAvoy is going to be in an M. Night Shyamalan movie, I'm like, okay, now we're getting somewhere, because now he has a big name, coming off, the X-Men movies. He's a big name. You can put him on your movie, and it's just going to sell by itself. But then I remembered After Earth. But still, like, After Earth was still a success despite, its negative reviews. It still was it was still a success, and it was still, mediocre, at least, at the very least, it was mediocre. There were some things that I didn't like about that movie, but it still was okay, especially in comparison to friggin' The Last Airbender. Now, James McAvoy plays in this movie a guy that suffers DID, dissociative identity disorder, which is, he has different, pretty much he has like different personalities, and it said like 23 personalities, but in this movie we only got to see about 6, and I like that because by the end of the movie, I'm gonna try not to spoil as much, but we'll leave that for later. We'll leave that for later. Anyways, he abducts three different girls from a school, and he locks them up in his it's in a factory that I believe he works at, and he locks them up in different rooms. Well, actually, he locks them up in one room, and then he splits them up because they are trying to get out. And the whole plot is that there is a 24th personality that's on the brink of exploding out of him, and he will finally unlock the 24th personality, and that personality is what's called the Beast, and that Beast is what is that's the reason why he abducted those girls, was because that Beast wants to devour those 3 women, and it's for some reason it's the whole point of abducting them is like it should be like three, um, non-pure girls from school, and it's just that's the whole point. It's just three non-pure teenagers. I guess that's the sacrifice thing. I don't know, but yeah. So there's his doctor, Karen Fletcher, played by Betty Buckley. She was really good. She's trying to use James's character Kevin. She's trying to use that as as a scientific breakthrough, because apparently when one personality kind of gets harmed or gets infected by a disease, or even actually one of them has diabetes, but any of the other personalities don't, they're not getting those same symptoms. He only gets those symptoms when he's that character, when he's that personality, if that makes any sense. So if one of them gets hurt, the other ones don't feel it. So yeah, and pretty much like the other personalities aren't aware of the others. They're not aware of what the others' actions are. They pretty much talk to each other somehow, like 23 individual personalities. So yeah, that's Betty Buckley. Now, Anya Taylor-Joy, who's Casey Cook, the protagonist of this movie. There's a little bit of backstory, being implemented here of her being taught by her dad and her uncle on, ever since she was like 5 years old. I think she was supposed to be 5 years old in the flashbacks, where she's being taught on how to hunt deer, and her dad is telling her like this is how you hunt a deer. And I liked how it was kind of implemented into the flash forwards, where where he's telling her like the female deer is always smarter than the buck, because she always senses danger before she always she's very cautious before she gets into a situation, while the buck, he gets into the situation and then he tries to figure out how to get out of it, while the female deer is more more cautious. So I really like that idea of of that being implemented here, because it's three different girls being implemented here, and being put in this situation where they're in danger. And Casey's very smart, where she's like, okay, you shouldn't be doing this. Don't overthink things. Like try going with the flow and find a way. Let's find a way out instead of going at it full force. Let's be a little bit more rational. And the way she acts in this movie, she does have that traumatized child type of acting. And not just that, but I really like the fact that the flashbacks, yeah, it was a little bit flashback heavy, but at the same time it made sense, because there was a few moments, and I don't know if anybody else caught that. I don't know. I'm not sure, but there were moments in there where there was sexual abuse, but it was just, if you blink, then you would have missed it. And I love that, because that warrants multiple viewings, instead of being like, okay, I saw this movie, let's put it in the shelf, let it collect dust for the next few years, until one day I'm cleaning my attic and I find this movie and I'm like, let me check this out. No, this is a movie that once it's done, you want to watch it again to catch everything one more time. There's just way too many Easter eggs, and not just that, but things that make sense in repeated viewings. So yeah, just I thought Casey, Casey Cook, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, Was really she was so good as our protagonist. Like some people might confuse that for playing that monotone type of protagonist that we see in many movies nowadays, where it's like, oh, I'm just so sad and stuff like that. I have a horrible past. No, she plays this to a frickin' T. You got to take my word for it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the entire movie, and it's so amazing. It's so well paced. It might be a little bit slow for some people, but I thought that it was perfectly paced, and it went for like close to 2 hours, like an hour and 40. It was exactly enough. Once it was done, it was like, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, it just that was enough. Not just that, but afterwards, after the movie's done, like there was a scene right before the credits where it's like, I'm so glad, I'm so happy. It's just one of my favorite movies. It's just it was so great, and I can't wait for a sequel. M. Night came back with a frickin' bang. I love The Visit. I love Devil. I love his other, most of his movies and in his filmography. He's made more good than bad. Like looking through his filmography, there's probably just two movies that were horrible. There's just one. I think Last Airbender was horrible. After Earth was bad, but not to the point where it was like unwatchable. I still think that you can watch it at least once, and if it's on TV, you can still watch it. But Last Airbender is just completely unwatchable. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's all I gotta say about this movie. So rate, comment, favorite, and please subscribe, and check out my next video where I'll be talking about something else.